so many buildings and structures as, of course, we're moving away from brick and mortar to some extent, but that's also a moving target, and it depends on the type of institution because there's a lot of demand for the higher end institutions to have all the bells and whistles, the climbing walls and the, winning football team and you name it. Extremely complicated. Running a higher education institution is one of the hardest jobs in the world.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. We have a special guest today, Mary Darden. Mary, where are you calling from today?
Because
Fantastic. What's been the most exciting development in your business today or recently?
wow. Well, there's a lot of exciting developments. I would say the one that's probably exciting higher education the most right now is AI. It's not only exciting, it's terrifying. So we're all shaking in our boots as we anticipate great things and fear for our lives.
Mixed bag there, I see. For those unfamiliar what HEI does today and what it stands for, what's its core mission?
The core mission for Higher Education Innovation is the company. We call it HEI for obvious reasons, is to transform higher education. Higher education is in a crisis, not only in the United States, but all over the world. And we're just working right now on the US, trying to help transform things, make schools more entrepreneurial, more innovative, more relevant. And so we work with leaders, mostly presidents and upper administration, to re-envision, reimagine what that institution needs to be, what processes need to be fixed, what problems need to be solved, and then we pull in the expertise to make that happen.
Okay. Can you share your journey and how Hey Today was founded?
Absolutely. I have about almost 3 decades in the academy in higher education administration. I started out in the community college system in Texas, and I was honored with a National Exemplary Award, which allowed me to step into a full scholarship for my doctorate at Baylor University. And from there, I just continued in the academy. I became a university campus dean in San Antonio, and I really was feeling the call to move outside the academy because my research on the future of higher education, my research in writing, was really, I don't know, it was not happening fast enough. I needed to do it full time. I was doing it about 10 to 15% of the time on top of my 60 or 70-hour a week job as a dean. And so I realized that I needed to spend more time doing that. I received a phone call from my two mentors on the same day, separate calls, and they both told me exactly the same thing. They said, Mary, you need to start a company that does the research to figure out what presidents need to do because we are too busy. And those two mentors were president of George Washington University, Stephen Joel Trachtenberg, and Jay Box, who was then president of the Kentucky Community and Technical College System. So I realized I had received a call. And so I just quit everything, started the company. That was 10 years ago, and here we are today.
What problem were you trying to solve?
Higher education was losing confidence within the people. A lot of people were saying, "Is it really worth it anymore to get a degree?" And colleges were struggling. Their enrollment was dropping across the board, across the nation. Almost all schools were losing enrollment. There were issues. Technology was ramping up at light speed, and so colleges couldn't keep up with it. They didn't have the funding. The reason the colleges usually fail is because of financial reasons. But those financial reasons are, you know, there's a million things behind why they have financial reasons. So what we needed to do was get in and do an assessment. We go and do a deep dive assessment of the institution to figure out where the problems are, what the needs are. And after we do that assessment, we make recommendations to the institution and say, you need to do new processes in these departments. And then we train people. We train them to be innovative and entrepreneurial and to be able to solve their own problems ultimately.
Okay. Who do you primarily serve? Students, institutions, leaders?
Well, in the long run, we serve everybody, but directly and most immediately, we serve institutions of higher education through their leadership. So our main contact is usually the president of a college or university. That's where we start. If you don't have the buy-in from the president of an institution, then you really aren't going to get anywhere. So we have to start at the top and have the conversations about what we can do. And of course, we always do the assessment because there is no one size fits all. So many companies will come in and say, oh, we can help you with an enrollment, or we can help you with, starting workforce development, or whatever it is that you want to begin. They just um, they probably most of what they're telling people, they either already know or they don't really need because it doesn't fit their specific need. So we have to go in and figure out, who is this institution? What are they meant to be? What are they meant to accomplish? And how do we best customize our help to make them reach those goals? And so it takes time. It's time consuming. It's a little more cumbersome than just going in with a package and saying, here's something great, which may or may not be great. It has to be something that's a fit for them so that they can advance on their journey.
Okay. What does your role look like day to day?
Was very different every day. I may be on Zoom calls. I may be at a conference, running our president's conference. We have an annual president's conference, and I could be writing, consulting. I'm a researcher. I do a lot of research because everything that we do is based on the research that we do, mostly within the institutions. And so talking to people, I mean, that's a lot of it, just spending time and trying to figure out what's going on. I do a lot of online training. So I work with either, vice presidents, directors or coordinators, and even counselors. I've worked with directly with admissions counselors and recruiters. um, we found a lot of really interesting things in our research. For one thing, we know that the admissions counselor role is a role that doesn't really work the way it was invented in higher education. They expect somebody to be able to go out and recruit students and then process them and get them through everything, through the hoops and track them. And what we found out was those are two different jobs, because sales is what recruiting is. And you can't, just like in basketball, you can't teach tall. You can't teach sales to somebody who is not gifted in sales. It's a strange thing, but it's very true. Recruiters are very hard to find. And once you do, they're usually really good at that, but not really good at the other part of tracking. So we built what we call a hunter farmer team group for admissions, where we have the hunter, who's the admissions person, partnering with the farmer who's doing the tracking. And so those are just some of the things that we have found in our research that we are implementing where it is needed. I hope that's helpful.
That definitely helps. What major shifts are you seeing in the higher education nonprofit leadership right now?
Strengths in the nonprofit higher ed leadership. I see a lot of great leaders. I really do. Most of the time, presidents are very well prepared educationally. They generally have their terminal degree. They generally have their experience in the academy, quite often 20, 30 years in the academy in various administrative roles. So they're well prepared in general. But where I see problems, it's mostly in the innovative and entrepreneurial area, because I think people that go into education, they have big hearts. They're not going into this because they're going to make $1 million, but they also tend to they believe in the mission of teaching and learning, and they're not often your greatest entrepreneurs. And so it's not that they can't learn that, they can. That is something you can teach. Innovation is something you can teach. And so we do that. We help them to become more innovative so that they can be more up to date, more successful, more relevant. They can better meet the needs of society and of their students. So I think there is so much potential out there, but they're just not quite, most of them aren't quite there yet. They need that extra boost to bring them into the fast evolving landscape of higher ed today.
Okay. Are institutions becoming more resource constrained?
I'm sorry, can you say it again?
Are institutions becoming more resource constrained?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And that's one of the other things that we do is we help them to develop other revenue streams. Higher education institutions in the past have depended primarily on two things: funding from donors and tuition. Too many institutions are tuition dependent. If they're more than 80% tuition dependent, they are in danger of failing. And so what we try to do with institutions is help them to develop other revenue streams that can bring in money so that they don't have to be so dependent on those. And it's critical that they do so because tuition is going to go away. It is going away. Higher education is free in more than half of the states in America. And so they've got to find other sources. They can't compete with free tuition unless they have another revenue stream. So we help institutions to develop some of these other streams, whether it be through continuing education, workforce development, intellectual properties, partnerships. We have about a dozen streams that we focus on for developing new revenue streams for institutions. And once they do that, I remember my alma mater, Sweetbriar College in Virginia, they voted to close in 2015 for financial reasons. The alumni organized and came back, raised a whole bunch of money, got control of the institution. And they they contacted me at one point and asked me what to do. One thing I told them was, "You have 3,500 acres. It's now 2,400 acres." I said, "You need to make that land make money." And so in their brilliance and good judgment, they went out and started a vineyard. They now make wine. They have an apiary and they're making honey. They have an award-winning rosé, won the governor's medal in Virginia. And so they have other revenue streams now that are coming in to help pay for the education. Higher education is too expensive for the average person to afford anymore. So we have to get the money from somewhere. If you can't get it from tuition, then you have to find those other revenue streams.
What are leaders in your industry struggling with the most today?
Change, the rising cost of everything, the rapid rate of change, technology change, being able to not only afford to do the necessary advancements in technology, but to be able to know what they are. I mean, there's so many out there. Which CRM do you use? You know, which system do you use to manage your institution and the students? You have to pick one that fits, and then how do you integrate all those systems? Because a lot of them don't talk to each other unless you either get something that is integrated or you find an integration system to bring them together. That's all costly, it's complicated, it's time consuming, and the human cost along the way of just trying to endure that kind of change is very high. So, trying to find an efficient way to advance the institutions technologically is essential because technology is the future. If they're not up to speed now, it's really going to be hard for institutions to get up to speed. That's why we are losing more than one institution every week in the United States. They're closing or merging, and it's escalating. That's going to get worse.
Okay, let's switch gears here a little bit. What's working extremely well right now for you in your business?
Um, Everything, really. I mean, I'm so glad that we based everything on research and did the hard work and went in and with each institution and really learned and uncovered what was going on. Everything that we have done with each one of these institutions has been successful. We've only had one failure, and that failure was out of our control. It was a merger that took place that kind of intervened right at the beginning of where we were starting our work with them, and so we were unable to fulfill and serve. And so, mm, I think that the successes that we're having are not going to be guaranteed for a long period of time because we have to keep up with the change. We have to keep doing the research. We have to keep what's valid today, not what was valid yesterday. We've learned a lot, but we can't sit still. So we have to continue to learn and research and grow and change constantly. And I think that's when people really get in trouble in higher education is when they sit back on their laurels and just let coast with the good time and don't anticipate the huge change that's around the corner.
Okay. Where do you feel friction in the organization?
Where is the friction in the relationships with higher education experts?
Yeah. Well, just friction in your organization, like something bottlenecks or something not executing the most efficient way.
I wouldn't call it friction, but I would say the biggest challenge for us is reaching the key people, the presidents. We have a lot of friends that are presidents, and we have a lot of people that have used our services, but the ones that we haven't contacted, it's very difficult to reach presidents. And so, and we don't spend any money on marketing, which I know people think is crazy. It is crazy. I would never recommend somebody doing that, but we try to put 100% of our money back into helping institutions. So we do free on social media, LinkedIn marketing, and it's worked for us, but it hasn't worked to the extent that it needs to work to really transform higher education in America because we've worked with dozens of institutions, not hundreds, and hundreds are needing what we do. And so at this point, we're looking at the future at HEI and saying, what is the next step? What is the next iteration of HEI? We have decided with our board that we probably need to pass the baton. We're going to need to probably sell the company or do something to send it into the hands of people that already have the large number of contacts with presidents and can do this on a larger scale because we will never get to the goal of transforming higher education doing handfuls of institutions at a time. So I think we've established the platform, the groundwork, all the processes, and the next step is the one we're looking for.
Okay. Is growth currently limited by funding, awareness, systems, staffing, or bandwidth?
Sorry, something broke
No.
up there. Can you say it again?
Is the growth currently limited by funding, awareness, systems, staffing, or bandwidth?
All of the above. And yes, all of the above exclamation point. It's money, of course, is what puts them under in the end because they just can't come up with enough funding to stay open. But adding to all of that is their bandwidth, is their technology, is their lack of staffing, is their lack of being able to deal with deferred maintenance. So many buildings and structures, as of course, we're moving away from brick and mortar to some extent, but that's also a moving target, and it depends on the type of institution because there's a lot of demand for the higher end institutions to have all the bells and whistles, the climbing walls and the, winning football team and you name it. Extremely complicated. Running a higher education institution is one of the hardest jobs in the world. A lot of that is because of all the various constituents who are power based but it's just a complicated system. So looking at this picture and saying, yeah, we need help in all these areas. We need staffing, we need money, we need technology, we need innovation. How are we going to do everything? And of course, too many of these institutions are realizing they can't. And so they're closing. And it's heartbreaking because so many beloved institutions, I could name many, but I'm sure you know some that have closed. And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who are afraid that their alma mater is not going to be around in the future.
It is sad, but that's basically what's happened to the market. And some things cannot be, they go obsolete and they're replaced by something better.
Right.
So the goal
Exactly.
is to become that better, right?
Yes, absolutely. You have to become better. And the thing is, if you start too late, you can never catch up.
Exactly. How are most people finding or discovering Hey today right now? Am I pronouncing it right? Hey today?
H
Or
HEI? Yeah.
yes.
How are they finding it? Most people are finding HEI either through online things like LinkedIn or through my books. My books are co-published with the American Council on Education, and Bloomsbury Publishing. So, the American Council on Education is one of the main president's organizations in Washington, D.C. And so, a lot of people are reading the books. My first book they used as a textbook at Harvard in their doctoral program in higher education administration. And the second book, Entrepreneuring the Future of Higher Education, won the 2021 American Book Fest Award. And the new one, which you see over my shoulder, Transforming Higher Education, just came out in December. So it's brand new. A lot of people find us through that. Um, HEI is known fairly well throughout the United States. And what I think we are regarded for the most is our research, the fact that we really do the hard work. We don't just put together things that we think are going to work. We get in and dig in and find out what the real needs are and what the real solutions are. It takes a lot of time, but it is so worth it.
Absolutely. What metrics matter the most to you this year? Impact, reach, new engagements.
Well, we like to see the metrics of success for the institutions that we work with. I mean, that is, we win when they win. So when they increase enrollment in 1 year by 30%, we won and they won. And that is pretty much the rule for us. Most of the institutions that we have worked with have been able, even when they're struggling, to increase enrollment by at least 30% within a year. I mean, we do many other things. That isn't even the main focus of what we do. That's just one of the side things that we do, but it's easy to measure. One thing you can measure easily is enrollment. So innovation, entrepreneuring is a little more nebulous. I mean, you have to success, yes, but how do you measure that? In workforce development, we measure it by more partnerships, more programs, and there consequently more enrollment in those programs. So it's the success of our institutions we work with that is the metric we look at the most.
Okay. Let's see. What processes still feel manual and repetitive?
Can you do it again? Sorry.
What processes still feel manual or repetitive?
For HEI or for the institutions?
For AGI.
For HEI, really nothing feels manual and repetitive. I mean, we do some of the same services, but we don't do them the same way. So it's different every time we do it. Every time we go in and help someone develop a workforce education program, everybody's starting at a different place in a different area. We worked with a college in Maine. They wanted to have a large workforce education um, I guess, buffet to offer to the community around them and to their part of the state, but they didn't really know what was needed. So we had Jay Box went in, he was our chief leadership innovation officer at the time and worked with their workforce development director to meet with business and industries all over the part of central Maine and find out what those business and industries needed. They discovered a whole lot that people didn't realize, and they consequently built a number of programs. They now have a massive program, and they've gone from being one of the smallest or possibly the smallest community college in the state of Maine to one of the most robust. They've grown hugely. So, as far as repetitive, there are things. I mean, when we do an assessment, we have templates that we use as far as interviewing and digging in for the information, but we customize every single one of them. So nothing ever looks exactly the same. Therefore, no repetition really.
Okay. So, if you had a magic and could fix one bottleneck inside the HEI today, what would it be?
Oh, that's a really great question. I love that one. And I've thought about that a lot. So, what I would love to do is take everything that we have done, plug it into an electronic format that can be disseminated very easily anywhere, um, and be interesting so that people will want to watch it, provide assessments so we know that they absorbed what we gave them, and then have that possibly turned into a research database using AI to then go in and assess the institutions and find out what they need, and then utilize that link with our findings and our trainings, our workshops, and everything to connect exactly what is needed with the exact people that need it. It sounds like a big wish, I know. It is a big wish, but I think it can be
All right.
done.
It's
I think
definitely
it
doable.
Yeah, I think it can be done, and I really am excited about it because we have, close to 6,000 institutions in the United States, and most of them need help. More than half of them are struggling. I mean, it's well more than half that are struggling. And so, if we could find a way to reach thousands of institutions in a short period of time before it's too late for them, then we could really make that difference. We could reach our mission to transform higher education. We don't want to lose it. We have such and the United States has the best higher education system in the world. We don't want to lose that. That said, it needs to be so much better than what it is. And it needs to move such a long distance forward. And doing that is huge. So we need help. We need technology to help us. And we need AI to help us.
That is a fantastic answer. Thank you for answering that.
Yeah, you're
I
welcome.
have a lot more questions, but we're kind of short on time. What I wanted to say is that that was a fantastic podcast. Thank you for sharing. Ironically enough, I did see implementations of exactly what you just said with a couple of people. I mean, I'm part of a network that sees those technologies being implemented, and I did implement a couple of similar technologies just recently. If you're free, let me know if you have some time to talk about it sometime this week. Point of our next call is going to be to I can share the solutions which we implemented, which are kind of relevant to you, and at the same time, I will ask some questions to kind of zero in and laser focus on exactly what you need. So I can create something which is ultra and super relevant to what you need. It's really moving fast, and I can definitely see the pressure on institutions.
Yeah.
It's moving faster than you can actually imagine.
Well, and one thing I didn't say, but it's really important, people don't realize that higher ed has been disrupted. I don't know if you know
Yes.
about Clayton Christensen and his theory of disruption, but it's been disrupted. We have thousands of for-profit education companies that have entered the marketplace, and rightly so. Higher ed wasn't meeting the needs. So that's another big problem. I mean, it's a solution in a way, but it's also a problem because it puts higher ed as we know it at greater risk.
Fantastic. Well, this has been a fantastic podcast. Thank you very much for joining, and we'll chat soon.
All right. Thanks, Art. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.